Hey folks, Julius Twisted Christian. Hey, I'm gonna discuss kind of the craziness that's going on. We're in a climax, and there's a lot of different things that are going on just all over the world, and especially here in the United States. The elections. The elections are very important as far as what's going to happen in the next 4 years, but it's also important across the world. And a lot of people don't realize that, once that second term has been sealed by the President of the United States, he's going to wield a lot more power. And you're going to see a lot of hammers come down, I think, especially after the election as well. There's going to be a lot more October surprises. I don't know what the Democrats have planned. I don't know what kind of resources or what really they have left. They're playing the same book they did 4 years ago, and they're trying to pull out all these different stops, before the election. A lot of people thought that a lot of things were going to start happening on October the 2nd, that some major event that was going to happen, and it did. And the president tested positive, and then you have this whole thing about quarantine, and then the media was just so focused on what was going on. And I think that really, when you think about it, folks, after, what is it, the next day or the day after that, he's out in his limousine, he's got his mask on, he has it off. He's doing interviews and speaking, and then he's coughing too and all that stuff. And then the media focuses on that, and it's kind of funny because, like, if you're at work or whatever the situation is, and somebody coughs, everybody almost turns around and looks to see who's coughing. So it's, they're trying to use that whole fear thing of, okay, he's coughing. Well, everybody coughs. But it's just funny how, everything is just a huge circus. And so it just makes me think that there's some big October surprises coming. Right? And we've discussed on this channel, we got this whole thing with the banking, and I got all these different things about gold, just my thoughts and opinions on a lot of different things, and I can see some industries really kind of coming down. But I'm not sure if this is all going to start coming down before the elections. You got to remember, folks, these people don't want this president to be there, and a lot of it has to do with Mr. E, and a lot of it has to do with those files and everything that was going on that island. They don't want that information to come out. I believe that if he did not ever pursue it or even talk about it, I don't think that this election would be as bad as it is. But we're going to see a lot of October surprises, right? We have just seen the president going through what he's going through and just doing all this crazy stuff with, being in cars and coughing on TV and all that. And one of those is the whole thing with Mr. E. And Mr. E's Epstein. And I call him by Mr. E because a lot of times videos get restricted, so I refer to him as Mr. E. And so I do see the fallout from that. And I'm not sure if it's going to come before the elections. And honestly, folks, I really thought that it was, I would have thought at the very latest, they would wait a month before the elections to start leaking this information out. Because they have it all. And you see right now with the whole thing with the emails in Clinton, right? And there's a whole lot of them, and I do expect some things to come out of that. Some people say it won't come out until after the election. There might be some things that they will release that's going to be important because all these politicians that are running for office, if they're connected to a lot of these things that are going on, they may be stepping down before the actual election. That's just a whole wait and see. And plus, I thought too, with the whole thing with mail-in voting, people are voting now. So if they were waiting to get this information out, I would have thought they would have did it right as people could start mail-in voting. And I think a lot of these things, a lot of these October surprises, they're going to be, a lot of these, especially the ones I'm discussing, should be rolling over into the next year for sure. And you see the information with the FinCEN files and the former vice president's son and that whole thing, that issue with all the money that was being transferred around. There's a lot of that stuff, folks, that eventually down the road are going to come out, and there'll probably be a lot of criminal charges and everything. But right now, I think the focus is on, those politicians that are connected to a lot of those transactions. So then again, of course, I'm seeing a lot of talk about the value, the value of the dinar being raised, and of course, folks, we've been through that before. How many articles have we seen? But I think this time is a little bit different. And the reason why it's different because we are seeing a lot more things take place, a lot more moving forward, and we still haven't seen a lot of the bad people still go down. They're still in the system, and I don't think you can go to a new system unless you get rid of those guys. And maybe they have, and we just haven't heard about it. But so we got to stay grounded because, folks, we've heard this before, and there's going to be a lot of going back and forth in the Dinar community again. And and the other thing is too. I need to bring this up because there's still, a lot of, when the Dinar community first started out, there wasn't a lot of talk about a lot of the things that we are discussing now. You can go back. There wasn't a lot of talk about, any type of gold-backed currency. There wasn't a lot of talk about asset-based currency. And of course, all the bad guys, the banking system. I mean, we were talking about a revaluation under a fiat system. And yet, even when I got into the dinar, it was when Obama was in office, and a lot of people thought that he was going to do the RV. And he definitely would have been one of those that would have been against it. That's for sure. And you're going to find out a lot more about that later on. I think a lot of the things that actually surrounded the whole issue with Iraq and their country being taken over, I think you will not see any really bad things about that maybe till next year, and how the former administration and how they played a role in all that. And then, folks, you have like the news media again, like they are really pushing that Biden has this big lead over Trump, and you already know what happened in the previous election. And one of the things that was pivotal in Clinton losing was she lost a lot of the black vote going into 2016. And the black support of Trump is actually a lot higher than what it was. It's a lot higher now than what it was in 2016. They say that in order for a Democratic nominee to win the presidency, they have to have at least 93% of the black vote. Right? And that decreased. And even in some states, like you see, like North Carolina, I've seen reports of 25% support for President Trump. That's huge. And I think that's the thing that the media is trying to do. They're trying to put this cover over the eyes of one race and making it seem like, we should vote Democrat no matter what, even though Biden has the worst record concerning African Americans, but yet we're supposed to go vote for this person. And I hope that that before the actual elections, that I really think that you're going to see probably at least a 15% of the black vote in November. And I think that's going to be a November surprise after the election. So really right now, the President of the United States is really keeping the media distracted. I mean, and he's really doing a good job. For whatever reason, he is really keeping the media. I mean, the media, just all you have to do is just go to like CNN, Drudge Report, MSNBC, and look how much over the past week they focused on the president and all the crazy stuff that he's doing. And if I'm not mistaken, there was even a Kim Clement prophecy that he's going to fool everyone, and that's going to be crazy because if that's the case, he's doing a really good job. And I think a lot of people thought that there were various reasons why he went into quarantine and he was doing what he's doing, but I'm not gonna add to that. But it could be pretty serious, And as far as our economy, again, I have said before that the media is going to start focusing on the debt, and they are. And the debt has really exploded. They're saying I believe $27 trillion. A lot of people don't realize that, a lot of that is the central bank. And they're just pumping all this money, all these billions of dollars on a daily basis, all it does is just give more money basically to the rich. And that's the way they've always done it. Ever since I know, as far as when I learned about the central banking system is a debt system. And, I have been seeing some news, and maybe I will get into it into another video, but I'm seeing different news articles that it's almost like they're trying to do a RV, but it's going to be like a fiat RV, right? They want to try to do the RV before they actually change over to the system because they don't want to change over to the new system, right? I do believe that there's going to be a new system. When I first started getting into the Dinar news, as far as any type of change in the banking system, as far as what I knew, and the news that was coming out then, that to some extent, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people were looking for an RV in a fiat system. Then, of course, you have the whole issue, and isn't it amazing how we allow our central bank to continue to pump billions of dollars into the system that goes into the pockets of the wealthy? And yet we still don't have a stimulus check. You've gotten one stimulus package, and that is absolutely crazy. I just really don't. I mean, the system, folks, and this is the system that, I'm 48 years old. Folks, we've been voting for years, right? And we voted for certain people that kept this system alive. Our parents voted for people who kept the system alive. But we didn't know, a lot of us didn't know any better. And even if we do know better, you have to vote for one candidate over the other because the other one is so bad, you don't want them to get in office. So you have to take the lesser of two evils in a lot of situations when you're voting. So during this whole October surprise thing, are we going to see any more issues with the whole race relations thing? And I believe that the media has tried, because I think I've seen articles posted about this incident or over here or over there. But I think there's still a lot of time for them to try to orchestrate or focus on a situation that causes really bad race relations. Right, folks? And then you have the Abraham Accord. Then you have all these historic peace deals. I mean, what's going on? You have even the Saudis. You have all these different countries. That's because the way everything is changing, right? And folks, we don't know. You got to remember when, I believe it was Venezuela, or it was a different country that announced that they were leaving OPEC. They didn't even make a public announcement until like anywhere from, I think it was either 4 or 6 months. They didn't even want to even make it official. So we don't really kind of know what's going on with the whole thing with OPEC. There was a video that Benny did that was on Currency 365's channel where he talked about OPEC. He talked about Kim Clement, and it was one of the first ones. I do remember because I've recently shared about how Iraq needs to leave OPEC, and that there are multiple prophecies that deal with OPEC and the oil industry and how it's going to shape and form how Israel and the United States will be number one oil exporters. Right? And now you see the change. You see everything change and how these peace agreements are being done. And some of these October surprises that we're looking for here, at least here in the United States, you got to remember the presidential election it doesn't just affect the United States. It also affects the world and how we do things, and how if you want something done, we use our might, we use our power, we use our influence to get certain things done. And a lot of countries don't like that. And so a lot of countries do have a vested interest. And trust me, all those communist countries that are over there, they're all invested in making sure, in my opinion, that Trump is going to lose. That's what they are invested in. I don't know if we're going to see the conclusion of this whole thing with the virus. And I think that's another thing. Are we going to see, there's a lot of talk about, the truth behind all of that. And are we going to see that before the end of the election? That could be another October surprise, along with Mr. E, the Clinton files. A lot of people talk about Assange. But I think a lot of that stuff may not happen until after the elections. I think the way things that are going now, I do believe that the current sitting president will win, and however that takes shape. But and like I said, I'm surprised that a lot of these things haven't come out already. And we do live in a media world where everything is run by sound bites. We forget history very quick because of social media and the internet. We do. We really forget history very quick. It's like, take for instance, Black Lives Matter or BLM. When they first came out, who were they? They weren't protesting Republicans. They were protesting Democrats. Remember the whole the Hillary thing? She kept getting interrupted, and they were demanding, certain things from the Democrats. They were protesting them. But now, because of, all the money that's come in, well, heck, guess what? Money talks. And it can obviously change a political view or opinion very quickly. Now, I do say this, folks. We know that the Dinar RV could happen at any time. And I think that people say, well, it happened before the election, because Trump needs to win, so he needs to do the Dinar RV. No, he doesn't, because he won before. And there's a lot now. He has more of an advantage than he did before. So you're going to see as we do get closer to the election. I think and I've discussed this before. When Kim Clement was talking about Iran and the plans, and this is just my opinion, not them, not the ministry. If they're going to make their move, they have to make it now. Whatever Iran and Russia, China, whatever plans they have with whatever Middle Eastern nations to come against Israel, they have to do. They need to. If they wait, like I said before, the president is going to yield a lot more power. So they do got to make their move. The DS, whatever here in the United States, all over the world, they do have to make their moves. And one of the major moves that they have to do is, like I said, folks, for 3 weeks and 3 days away. I mean, if they're going to pull the economy down, they need to do it now, right? Because we look for that, right? I mean, we understand that it's going to cause chaos and it could cause temporary disruption in a lot of things. But if they're going to pull down the markets, I'm surprised. I don't understand what they're waiting for. All these wealthy people that are in the markets, they don't want this president to be president, and they can use their finances. They can start pulling out of the gold markets. They can start pulling out all their cash in the stock market, the cryptocurrency market, and just try to bring the system down. Then you have the central banks. Who knows? They might decide to start selling off gold just to try to make budgets and try to keep the economy going. There's a lot of things that can happen. And there could be a lot of intentional mistakes on part of the central banking system also, too, to help bring down the system. Do I see that happening? And we've always talked about it. So it's almost like it just all remains to be seen. There's a lot of speculation about a possible October surprise dealing with UFOs and aliens. There has been a lot of talk about that from the mainstream media, and just because of a lot of files were promised to be released, and I guess this would be around the time period that they would be. Maybe the election doesn't have anything to do with it, but that will be a video that I will get into because I think with that we have to be very careful, and there's a lot of things that have happened in this. There's been a lot of things that have happened in the history of mankind, but even before you look at God's history, for millions or billions of years, the way that I look at the Bible and creation, life in the universe has been in existence for billions of years. But with that, I will do a separate video on that because Christians are going to have to stay grounded. There's a lot of the whole thing with the Nasara talk about Nasara Jasara. And why they change their name, I don't know. Sometimes I guess if something doesn't fit right, they have to change it. But there is something to that. But we have to be careful because a lot of people's faith could be rocked when it really shouldn't. Because to be honest with you, I don't expect anything less of a creator God. What people don't understand is that there was a war in heaven, and it happened all throughout the universe. It's not just here. right? It's just not here on Earth. So a lot of people do talk about that. I personally don't really see anything like that coming out until after the elections, but who knows? The people who control information to try to keep people blind or things from coming out. Yeah, I mean, like if they just suddenly released a whole bunch of Mr. E files, and the next thing you know it, there's a whole bunch of information out about UFOs and aliens, right? It'd be a good way to cover up and change people's focus. And so, do I expect a Dinar RV by elections? No. Can anything happen? Yes. And if those things that we have discussed, the climax up to the election, Iran has to make their move, the people that are in charge need to try to bring down the system, it very well could happen right before the election. But also, too, folks, I am also looking for Iraq to leave OPEC. Of course, we could hear that in October because I think from what I've seen in the past, when they usually do leave, when a country does leave OPEC, they usually leave at the first of the year. So whether that announcement will be made before then, because you know what, OPEC, Iraq is OPEC's problem child. And all you got to do is just type it in Google. There's an article right here. And they are pumping, regardless of what OPEC says, they're doing whatever they want to do. So it kind of makes me suspect. Maybe I'll get into another video that maybe they already have made their intentions to leave, and that's why they're ignoring everything OPEC is telling them to do. So maybe I'll just leave it at that. Maybe pick that up in another video. Maybe kind of go over some more Kim Clement prophecies on OPEC. Look, folks, a lot of things can change after this election, and hopefully it won't go into 2021 where they're trying to count votes from the U.S. mail and all that stuff, because we could go into a climax and then boom, not see anything. And then the next thing you know it, we got to wait a whole another month to get verified results. And then there's court battles, going to the Supreme Court and all that stuff. A lot of that stuff could happen, but I hope not. So we're just going to continue to watch. I think even put forward, say, keep your eye on Yellowstone because of the volcanic activity that's going on there. We know what Kim Clement has said. It's been discussed multiple times. But that's where one of the new energy sources is at. And that new energy source, we have to pay attention to that because we don't know what companies are going to be involved with that. If right now, if there are any discoveries made in that park, well, who does it belong to? Major discoveries. Is there a company involved? Whatever. What companies will get involved after that? When they said that Kim Clement held up that little rock, and the people laughed at him about the new energy source and how we're going to get out of debt. He lifted up the rock. What company is going to be involved with that? That's what we're looking for. And of course, too, if you live in that area, then you need to be careful too as well. So there will be a new energy source that will come out of that. And remember, there are 8 Kim Clement wells, and I think we actually were able to identify at least 4 or 5 of them. Right? So there's still and I think we had speculations on some others, but you got to remember, Kim Clement talks about 5 different new energy sources. So there's going to be 5 different companies that we're going to be looking for over the next, from now and for the next 2 to 3 years, especially after Yellowstone. Once Yellowstone has erupted or did what it's supposed to do, then that's when we really need to be on alert. And so there are 5. So maybe some of these other energy sources are the missing. Maybe some of these other energy sources are part of some of Kim Clement's 8 wells. And that's going to be very important because, folks, once we already know that the Dinar is part of the 8 wells. Whether it's the first one, I believe it is the first one. Kim Clement mentions it first. It very well could be the very first one that takes off, and we just have this rolling cycle of investments over the next couple years. And what Kim Clement said about a lot of people becoming very wealthy and being able to push God's word out there and push the truth out there and support ministries and support children and the elderly. So we definitely have to keep watch because eventually, the Bible says that the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous, right? So the way I kind of look at it is that it's almost like when Zion Oil came off of NASDAQ, right? It wasn't meant for them. And for those who remain steadfast, those who remain still stuck with God's company, right? Zion Oil. And so since they stuck with the company, they're the ones that are going to be blessed. Because a lot of people don't realize that there is oil down there. They just have to get to it. So it's just a matter of time. So that's what kind of the way I'm looking at that. And of course, there are people who aren't saved or whatever. They don't. They still believe in the company, but maybe after everything that happens with Zion Oil, you're gonna see a lot of people change. So, folks, tell me what you think. There's a lot of October surprises coming, and so just hold on to your seats, right? Because it's gonna be very interesting. Keep your eye on a lot of various different things. Keep your eye on the banking system. Keep your eye on Yellowstone. Keep your eye on the only thing I focus on the president is really what he says and really what it concerning the economy and maybe some other things too. But I'm not really paying attention to the chaos. I kind of just flip through the news and look at the headlines and read the first part of it just to get a glimpse of what's going on, which is nuts. And so he's supposed to be. I got to think about this before I let you guys go, but. Normally, you are quarantined if you test positive, from 10 to 14 days, right? I think in the beginning they said 14, now it's 10, but most people still do it at the 14. So 14 days from October the 2nd is October 16th. So are we going to see anything majorly start happening after that? So we're going to be looking at that too as well. So folks, I know I talked for a long time, but it was just a lot of different things that I had to get out. So I appreciate your guys' support. If you guys like these videos, please support me on the Patreon. The link is down below in the description. So please be safe, be careful, God bless. And with that being said, Twisted Christian out.